the read on where this goes now and the influence of people like Bernie Sanders, maybe Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and others, with Douglas Holtz-Eakin, the former CBO director, Austin Goolsbee, a former top economic council chair, the council chair, with us now. Doug, when I hear Republicans criticizing some of these spending initiatives, and I see that Donald Trump will be leaving a $3.5 trillion deficit this year, $0.5 trillion for the last 3 months of the year. And I understand the pandemic and all the other stuff, but they're hardly in a position to point fingers. So what will Republicans' response be to all of this, you think?
Well, I certainly agree with you that there's no great track record of fiscal sobriety to point to and then somehow take the moral high ground. There is a very real need to do things to counter the coronavirus itself and some of the economic fallout, and no one should shy away from deficit spending to do that and do that appropriately and aggressively. The Congress has done that, and I think they should be applauded for it. There's another issue, which is doing things that have nothing to do with coronavirus or the recession and borrowing for that in the near term, and that shouldn't be there. And some of the elements of what was put out last night are that, and they should not be passed by the Congress. It's not appropriate. And then going forward, you have a debate over what are the best ways to have the economy grow more rapidly over the longer term, generate higher productivity, generate higher standards of living for the working class. That is the preeminent challenge, no question about it. And there will be disagreement about that. Certainly, President Biden has ideas on infrastructure and other things that he thinks are appropriate. Republicans may have some other ideas, and that's the battle that's next joined, I think.
Austin, the one similarity between Barack Obama and Joe Biden is they enter office with the run of the table. They have the Senate, the House, and the White House. Now, the margins, particularly in the Senate, even in the House, are a little bit narrower, a lot narrower than they were for Barack Obama. But one thing I learned in reading his book is his regrets that he wasn't able to get the tax hike on the wealthy through earlier. It did eventually come, but given the timing and given the shape of the economy and what was the hemorrhaging of 1 million jobs a month, people forget that when he took office, it was put off. I'm wondering then about the tax hikes that Joe Biden wants right now. Do you think he'll get them right now? Or will there be enough concern by people like Joe Manchin, the West Virginia Democratic senator, who might just say, hold off on that? What do you think?
I mean, I'm the policy guy, so I don't totally know what the vote counting says. I know that if you look at the people who President-elect Biden says ought to pay a fair share of taxes, very high-income people and big corporations, they mostly have not even had a recession during this COVID time. The wealth of the billionaires and the very highest income people has gone up by over $1 trillion during the course of this pandemic. So the argument that we ought to leave the tax system in place that allows a billionaire like President Trump to pay $750 because not to leave it that way would be bad for the country, I just kind of think that doesn't carry a lot of weight. And I think Joe Biden just won the presidential campaign, running on a campaign saying, I intend to do the following steps to restore the economy. And he won by 7 million votes. And they won the Congress and they won the Senate as well as the White House. So I think it's a little odd to be saying, how dare Joe Biden actually propose to do the things that he ran on?
Well, I guess the argument was that if things are so precarious, do you want to make them potentially more precarious if the rich just stop spending or readjust and end up not paying at those higher rates? Well, there's all sorts of funny stuff that could go on. I get your point. But, Doug, the bigger issue is these bigger deficits, the compounding debt. And I'm just wondering if anyone is looking at that. I mean, obviously, during the Clinton era, we saw a boom, largely fueled by technology and the internet, that turned those deficits into surpluses. Do you think we could see anything like that? There would have to be something apart from Washington, something that is growing on its own, or a boom maybe triggered by some of these developments. I don't see that. So we've got to get very serious about entitlements and all this other stuff, all spending areas. And I don't see an appetite for that on either party.
So what we see is that the U.S. will exit this pandemic recession at some point in hopefully the very near future. And the spending and the revenues will go back to their baseline levels, which is to say they will diverge as far as the eye can see. And we will see an ever-rising cost of carrying the federal debt that is unsustainable. And we will jump off a point with the highest level of debt in the history of this country. And to stem that, to do the minimum a sovereign nation must do, which is stabilize its government finances, it will be necessary to grow rapidly, to control spending, and probably to raise more revenue. So the correct debate is about what's the best way to raise revenue. And we know that the answer is keep rates as low as possible and broaden the base. So broadening the base means things like end the deductibility of state and local taxes. And we see, the Biden administration going the other direction on a lot of these things. They want to raise rates and not actually have a broad base. Just pick 5 people to tax at a very high rate. So I understand their desire for the affluent to pay more, but how they pay more is just as important as getting more money from them. And that's going to be essential in the years to come, because nobody's talking about debts and deficits now, but they're not going to have the luxury of keeping it that way forever.
Finally, Austin, I remember Joe Biden saying, I'm probably not quoting him exactly, so I apologize, I don't care about the markets. When during the campaign, Donald Trump was talking about the records the markets, or said he doesn't care about them. But when you work with Barack Obama, you must have noticed what was going on. The markets were coming up off their shattered levels. They tripled under his stewardship. And I'm wondering whether Joe Biden means that he is going to keep one eye on the markets. There seemed to be a reflection of what's going on in the economy. It's the juice for the engine of corporate hiring and all the like. Do you think he should look at these markets and see how they're doing?
I think incidentally, yes. And by that, I mean the market over the long term does well when the middle class does well. And I think President-elect Biden recognizes that and has said that many times. So his goal is to strengthen the fiscal position, let's call it, of ordinary Americans. And if they do that, I think the market will respond. And I will just point out, on election night in November, when the Democrats, when it became clear they were going to take the Senate, at a series of junctures where the market has been able to pass judgment of what do they think this means for the economy, they've been pretty positive as the President-elect Biden's fortunes have gone up, and they, not without reason, have shown great nervousness over the actions of President Trump and what is he doing and what is he going to do next.
Well, at the election night in November, it looked like the Senate would stay in Republican control. So you're right, to a degree. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden had won, it was supposed to be buffered by the fact that Republicans would hold on to the Senate. But you're quite right to say that now, even with them controlling the Senate, that is Democrats, the markets have still done quite well. So maybe they're looking way past this, today notwithstanding. Way too early to tell. Austin, thank you. Doug, thank you very, very much.